Assalamu alaikum. We continue now with the distinguishing marks for verbs. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الكلام هو اللفظ المركب المفيد بالوضع، وأقسامه ثلاثة: اسم وفعل وحرف جاء لمعنى. فالاسم يعرف بالخفض والتنوين ودخول الألف واللام، وحروف الخفض وهي من وإلى وعن وعلى وفي ورب والباء والكاف واللام، وحروف القسم وهي الواو والباء والتاء. والفعل يعرف بقد. So last time we reached this point, a verb, الفعل يعرف. A verb is known. يعرف means is known. So it's recognized by بقد. Ba here is one of those letters. This ba, al-ba'u, that's the name of this letter. That's how the shape of it. Ba, bi. Bi, qad. Qad here, we covered this last time. And we said it attaches to the past tense and present tense verbs. Now we cover these two, السين وسوف. السين here, this is a name for the letter S or sa. This is how it's written separately. Or if it's within a word, it's written like this. 3 tooth within the word, that's the letter sa. So it would be like this. This here is within the word. At the end of the word will look like this. This is here in the word. At the beginning of the word will look like this, sa. And that's how it's gonna look when it attaches to a present tense verb. So this scene here, or let me take the wa out. This here, this word is السين. L, we covered that. The definite article. Seen, that's the name of this letter S. This wa here is like and in English. So this scene here attaches to only to the present tense verb. And سوف, this here, comes before a present tense verb. So if you see this S here at the beginning of a present tense verb, if you see a word and it has S before it, and using other marks or the context, you can tell there is a possibility that this is a present tense verb. We learned about the letters of present tense, that they attach to the beginning of a past tense verb and turns it into a present tense. So this S will come before it. So if you see a ya, an a, or a na, or a ta, that's another indication that you are looking at possibly at a present tense verb. So this is the point of this introduction, is to give you the marks that distinguish a verb and marks that distinguish a noun. So this scene here and سوف. Now for the meaning of these two, in the grammar books they say this scene is for the close future and سوف is for a distant future. How far, how close or how distant, that's just relative. So I won't emphasize too much this difference, but if it's close, you think you're gonna do it soon or it's expected, you just use the sa here. And if it's a bit later, use this سوف. We will discuss this more in a minute. So this scene here is a sa. سوف, it just looks like this. سوف. Notice here I said at the beginning of a word looks like this. That's here, سوف. And notice this is not a verb. So that's why we don't say every word starts with the sa is a verb. but it's one of the clues that can help us identify a present tense verb. So سين and سوف. These other marks وتاء التأنيث الساكنة, this other mark here is we will cover later. So what he did here in this description, he gave you the distinguishing mark for the verb. So first he gave you a letter or a word that attaches to past tense and present tense. Then he gave you an example of letters and a word that attaches only to present tense. And this here, the last one, attaches only to past tense verbs. So we will cover this later. The last sentence here, or this line here, describes the meaning letters. Those, how we distinguish them, are the ones that don't have these marks. If it doesn't have a mark of a letter, verb, or doesn't have a marks of a noun, so that's a letter, a meaning letter it's called, even though it's formed by more than one alphabetic letter. So here it's saying the letter ما لا يصلح معه دليل الاسم ولا دليل الفعل. So a letter, nothing works with it. The evidence for a noun or the evidence for a verb does not work with it. So it does not attach to it, does not connect to it. So that's how you know a letter. And another meaning with you could read in the grammar books is it needs something else to give meaning. So this here, from men, gives a meaning, but it's not complete. If you add a name to it, now it has more of a meaning to it. So it still needs something to attach to it, a word. Where nouns and verbs, a verb will indicate an event connected with time. So it has a meaning on its own, but also in addition it indicates a time, either a past, present, or a future. A noun has a meaning of its own and does not indicate time. So that's how they distinguish between the three. So now if we go to this book here, this here is those two letters are discussed. So here it says الفعل المضارع وعلاماته المختصة به. The present tense verb indicates the time of talking or speaking or after it. So with the present tense verb is describing is the time you are talking in, the present time, or the future. So this is an important note to make. When you see a present tense, something must attach to it, or there's some clue that make it just indicate the present or indicate the future. On its own, the present tense could indicate both. So you should keep that in mind. Of course, we will repeat this whole thing again. So the only thing we need to know now, the beginning of this playlist, is to know the marks. And we're not learning all of them, just a few of them, like a baseline. Then we start adding to it after the concept is settled in. So in here it says الفعل المضارع ما يدل على حدث يقع في زمان التكلم أو بعده. The verb in the present tense, what indicates an event that is happening, يقع في, in the time of speaking or after it. So كيقرأ, like read, this here as reading, كيقرأ. So he's given an example here. يقرأ. يقرأ could mean in the present or in the future. ويعرف بصحة وقوعه بعد لم. So this distinguishing mark of لم, here it's saying you know a present tense verb is a present tense verb by attaching this لم to it. If you can say لم يقرأ, لم, if this لم attaches to it, then that's a present tense verb. Of course, this is advanced. After you learn the language, you start, every time you hear someone say لم يحدث or لم تحدث or any word that starts with those four present tense letters, This lam always attached to a present tense. So, but this mark will not cover now. So they're saying here this is the major mark, that if a verb attaches to this lam, then that's a present tense. So he gives an example here. لم يلد ولم يولد. لم يلد, he did not give birth. This is in the masculine. So if you have this is a verse from the Quran talking about God. He did not beget, nor is he begotten. So you have a saying that says تمخض الجبل فولد فأرا. The mountain went into labor, like giving birth, labor, and it gave birth to a mouse. It's talking about like someone spending so much time or putting a huge effort into something only to have something small come out of it. So that's the saying it's used for. So the word mountain is a masculine. So walada fa'ran, he gave birth to a mouse. So figuratively you can use it in this sense. So lam yalid, this lam takes this present tense verb and move it to the past. He did not do this in the past, even though this is a present tense. And sukun is a sign of jazm. Jazm is like cut. That's what the origin of the word jazm. So why they use the word jazm or cut to describe this state is that movements end here. Whenever you have this lam, the end movement here, you don't have an end movement. This will yalid. There is no u, a, or I. That's the mark for it. Walam yulad. This is the same thing as the verb I just talked about. That here it's not indicating a subject. He was not born. Just like you would say in English, he was not born. He's not the subject. He's not the one doing the giving birth, but he's the subject, the object of it. So we will cover this later. But these are two present tense verbs, and they're moved to the past by this lam here. That's why this lam is important. We will cover this later because it's one of the signs here. This jawazim, this is one of them, this lam. But for now, all we have to care about is this here, السين وسوف. وعلامته المختصة به السين وسوف. So here indicating that present tense that have its own mark. This mark seen and سوف only attached to present tense. So that's why they are unique in that sense. The minute you see سوف or you see this seen attached to a verb, a present tense verb, that's a present tense. So only attached to present tense. So that's why they're used as a mark. And here he indicate this jawazim that I just talked about here. We will not cover this, so just focus on this السين وسوف. I'm just trying to give you an idea what the text is about. That's what we will cover later. So now سين and سوف are the two marks we're studying for today. سين and سوف. So now here he give more information about السين وسوف. يدلان على التنفيس. This تنفيس, you won't hear it that much. You will be in grammar books. It means الاستقبال, meaning the future. It turns the present tense in the future. It make it specific for the future. So if you attach السين, الس, to a present tense verb, or you put a سوف before it, this سوف here, that verb, that means it will happen in the future. So that's the job of this seen or الس here and سوف. And that's what it's saying here. It means this is another name for استقبال, but as I said, you will not hear it that often. So if you mention it to someone, they will not know it. Not everybody, if they're not studying grammar, or they will forget it from school time, depending how good their memory is. So it means استقبال. Just understand it means استقبال. So you can see this name here, but that's what the meaning of it. Here gets more detailed, saying the scene is for the future or near future. This here قريب means near future. And سوف is for الاستقبال البعيد, للاستقبال البعيد, for far future. Here gives an example from a verse from the Quran. سيقول السفهاء من الناس. This sa here, this يقول is a present tense to say. He says. So سيقول for also the plural here, indicating the people who are not smart, or in that context, سفهاء. سيقول. This sa here turns this will happen, and they will say this in the future. So this says they will say it in the future. Notice here, this does not mean that the people are right there. So that's how close the future is. That's why I said I wouldn't take it. You should think about it as a relative difference between distance or near. So if you know, the context you are talking to something that's expected to be closer rather than further, and that's all relative, you just use this. سوف. Here I give another example. سوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. Your Lord will give you and you will be satisfied. So سوف here came before this present tense verb. So يعطي is the verb, ka is the pronoun for the object, which is you. Here this ka means. So سوف and sa. This sa here and this سوف here. So that's an example about what this seen and سوف mean and their effect on the present tense verb. As I said, for the purpose of these first videos, all we care about is that to use these as a distinguishing marks, and this will lay the foundation to be able to start looking for these letters and their effect on verbs and nouns. But now you get that picture. So these you will find they're used all over. With present tense, you will see them used often to indicate the future. And here the saying والمضارع بأصل وضعه صالح للحال والاستقبال. Again, with this same idea that the present tense could indicate both the present and the future by itself. So when you read something, it does not mean in the present. It could go either way. ولا يتعين لأحدهما إلا بمعينات خاصة. And it will not be specific to either the present, الحال. This حال here could mean a present. It also means an adverb or the condition or the status. But الاستقبال is for the future. So it says here it does not become specific to either one of them, either to the present or the future, except with specifiers, just like the seen and سوف. And that's why this is important here, to recognize these distinguishing marks. Here it goes, what type of letters will make this present specific to the present, so you won't have to think about the future. These marks will make it for the present. I will not go through these, but I find this one useful. الآن. الآن means now. So if you're not sure what to use, now you can use this word now. الآن. الآن. This here is an extension mark. It's called. It goes above the alif or the in Arabic. An. So الآن, now. So if you get the present, this here أسافر means I travel. You know, we said one of the four present tense letter is the hamza, this for the singular speaker, feminine or masculine. أسافر. If you that's a present tense. If you say this word الآن means now, الآن. So now this present tense verb is for the present. By using this word, you made it present. I will not go through the other ones. We will do that in the future. Or you can say الساعة. ساعة is hour. So if you say أي ساعة, what time? It means what hour. That's how you ask for what time you have to do something. Or what is the time? كم الساعة, you say. But in this context, if you say أسافر الساعة, الساعة here would mean, if you say أسافر, it means I travel الساعة, this hour. So that's another way of using this word الساعة, or the definite ساعة. الساعة. We went through these sun letters and moon letters, saying with this L, some letters are the L will be pronounced, and with the other letters will not be. So this here, الساعة, S is one of those letters. If you have this definite article, you just stress the S, الساعة. Okay, this here means now also. In this context, if you say in this moment, الآن, الآن, or أو الساعة. This I thought is important. It's good to know. It's one word, now, الآن, الآن. Here is these specifiers of the present tense for the future. The first one is this scene here. We talked about, this is the subject of our lesson today, and the سوف. So seen and سوف, these are the two. These others we will cover later, but these are just examples here. These also are marks you can look for. If you see them, they indicate that you have a present tense verb after them. So here نحو is like نحو سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. In the grammar books, you will see the examples from the Quran used a lot, because it's the main source of the grammar rules, because it's preserved, the history of how it is preserved. It means it's the authority on how the language was spoken at that time in that area. And that's what the whole subject of grammar was started for, is to preserve and serve the language that is the Quran revealed in. So that's one of the purposes for the grammar. So that's why they use a lot of examples they use from it, and most people have access to these either by memorization or they have the book. So that makes a lot of sense for people to use that, because it's available everywhere, the book I mean. And a lot of people memorize it when they're young. So here it says سيعلم, سيعلم. The sa here will know. يعلم is علم, that's the three-letter root of any verb, or most verbs is three letters, علم. You add the ya to it, becomes present tense. You add the sa to it, becomes in the future. In the future, they will know. So they will know in the future. الذين ظلموا, those that did injustice, or they were unjust. Which منقلب ينقلبون. Here, قلب means to flip something, قلب, but just like you do in English, if you say that's not how things turned out, or how events unfolded, you're using the word unfold or turn out from physical stuff, doing that to explain events. So the same thing here, ينقلب is to turn or to flip. So here it's saying those unjust, they will know how things will change or flip when at the end. So منقلب and ينقلبون. So this is the sentence, what it means. Here is an example of sa. And here سوف, notice سوف as a word before the present tense verb تندم. So whenever you see سوف, the word after it is a present tense. That's the distinguishing mark. Here is more, it's a bit trickier because some other words will have it, just like here, سوف. You can't look at it and say this is a present tense. But these other information will help you recognize if it's a present or not. You add these clues together. سوف تندم على كسلك. This is just a regular statement. You will regret your laziness. كسل is laziness. Your laziness. So this is an example of سوف. Now we will just do some reading. Finish another page from the book we are reading. اتسعت آمال ديكنز وأخذ يكتب مقالات للصحف فتفتحت له أبواب المجد والخلود واندفع إلى العمل يحدوه الأمل ويحفزه الرجاء. وجد القراء لذة في قراءة ما يكتب لأنه كان يصف الحياة وما في الحياة بدقة كبيرة وتصوير نادر وأسلوب عذب. فأقبلوا على مقالاته فقدره أصحاب الصحف حق قدره وأخذ حظه يرتفع وبدأت الحياة تبسم له وقرر له 5 جنيهات في الأسبوع زيدت إلى 7 بعد قليل. وهذا قدر لم يكن يحلم به كثيرون من كتاب إنجلترا وشعرائها في ذلك الوقت. ثم جمع مقالاته في كتاب باع حق طبعه ب50 و100 جنيه وهو في 22 من العمر. And here it says the hopes of Dickens grew, and he started writing articles for newspapers, and the doors of glory and eternity has opened for him, and he was motivated to work with hope helping him move. And if you have raja, that means it's very possible for that thing to happen. Hope is more remote, or something is not as close or possible as raja. So in that sense he's using both. Here يحفزه is to encourage him or egg him on. This raja or expectation, that is a motivating force for him. وجد القراء لذة في قراءة ما يكتب. The readers they find enjoyment in what he writes. لذة has to do with taste, but it's used enjoying the taste. When you enjoy the taste of something, it's called لذة. لذيذ is delicious. So when you say لذيذ is delicious. So they found deliciousness, if you want to go literal with it, in reading what he writes. لأنه كان يصف الحياة, because he described life, وما في الحياة, what is in life, with great accuracy, بدقة كبيرة. وتصوير نادر, and تصوير is given an image or making it look as if it's right in front of you. So this ability to describe things and make them look as if they are in front of you is this taswir meaning. This you see it in Arabic used for photographs, so taswir. So when someone writes something and describe it in a way that makes it look very real, that's what it says here. A rare ability to make that. Do that by writing. وتصوير نادر, rare taswir. أسلوب عذب, and pure style. In my explanations of these, I try to get as close as possible to the word used. So even if it's not exactly used in English in that way, it should be, as in any language, there is a lot of figurative ways of describing things, but that's what I try to do when I try to come close to the exact word that is used. أقبلوا على مقالاته. So they أقبلوا means to come to something, to turn to something, or to head to something. So they showed interest in his articles. فقدره أصحاب الصحف حق قدره. So that the owners of newspapers appreciated him and gave him his place, or the right respect that he deserves. And his luck started to rise, and his fortune started to rise. حظه here means luck and fortune. وبدأت الحياة تبسم له, and life started to smile for him. وقرر له 5 جنيهات في الأسبوع. It was decided for him to get 5 pounds in every week. It was increased to 7 after a while. زيدت إلى 7 بعد قليل. After a while it was increased to 7. وهذا قدر لم يكن يحلم به كثيرون من كتاب إنجلترا وشعرائها في ذلك الوقت. And this much of money, a lot of the writers and poets in England did not dream of having that much money paid for them. Then he gathered his articles in a book, and ثم جمع مقالاته في كتاب باع حق طبعه ب50 و100 جنيه وهو في 22 من العمر. He gathered all his articles in a book, and he sold the rights for that book, to print that book, for 150 pounds. And he was at that time his age was 22 years of age, or 22 years old. أما بقية حياة ديكنز فكانت انتصارات تتلوها انتصارات ترتفع باسمه عالم النبوغ والعبقرية والخلود في عالم الأدب. ألف كثيرا من الكتب والروايات المملوءة بالمضحكات والمبكيات، ووفق في تمثيل بعض رواياته توفيقا كبيرا، وأكثر التنقل بين المدن لإلقاء المحاضرات وتمثيل الروايات، فأقبل عليه الجمهور المتعطش لرؤيته وسماعه من كل حدب وصوب. ودرس بيئات جديدة، واكتسب أموالا كثيرة، واشترى لنفسه البيت الذي كان يتمناه في الحياة. So in this remainder of this text here, the rest of أما بقية حياة ديكنز فكانت انتصارات تتلوها انتصارات. The rest of his life, this Dickens, was victories followed by other victories, raising his name in the world of brilliance and genius and eternity or immortality in the world of literature. He authored ألف كثيرا من الكتب والروايات المملوءة بالمضحكات والمبكيات. He authored a lot of books and novels that are filled by مضحكات, things that make you laugh, مبكيات, things that make you cry. So these are his books and novels were filled with these things. And he was successful in acting these novels, some of these novels, and had a great success in that. And he traveled a lot between cities to give lectures and act these novels. So the public, they were thirsty to see him and hear him from everywhere. And he studied new environments. واكتسب أموالا كثيرا. He gained a lot of money and bought for himself a house that he always wished for in his life. Thank you for listening. Next time, inshallah, we cover another mark for the past tense. We leave it at that for now. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.